Hi, I'm Sandy Zuniga, the founder of Colorado Springs Town Tidings. Be in the know, on the go for all things Colorado Springs, delivered right to your inbox. Today, in our local business spotlight, I'm truly feeling inspired to introduce you to a remarkable woman, Amanda Farrell, the founder of Sacred Space Therapeutics. This is not just another clinic. It's a sanctuary born from Amanda's own powerful healing journey. Here, well being means so much more than just treating symptoms. It's about embracing the unique blend of integrative medicine and alternative therapies, all within a nurturing, supportive community. Amanda, thank you for being here. I'm excited for our listeners to dive into your story and learn how Sacred Space is redefining care in Colorado Springs. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So can you give me just a little bit of an introduction to what Sacred Space Therapeutics is? Because as I was looking through it, there is so much to unpack.
There's a lot to unpack. So, Sacred Space Therapeutics is really about bringing our standard medical care, Western medicine modalities in with alternative healthcare practices and putting them all underneath one roof, making it affordable and accessible for people to find their own healing path and their own journey through where they want to go in life, and whether that's a medical condition, a chronic illness, or just finding more joy out of life and finding their purpose as well.
Wow. Yeah, like I said, that's a lot to put into one roof, and we are definitely going to unpack that a bit. So,
Yeah.
what's one thing people misunderstand about blending traditional and alternative practices?
The biggest part is we don't heal in a vacuum. And from my own healing journey, the I've noticed that there's so much in Western medicine that's you're going to go see this specialist for this, and you're going to see this person for this, and I'll give you a referral for that. And very often, none of those practitioners or those medical professionals talk to each other. You might be able to find a clinic, or some things are getting a little bit better to where there's more people that do look at records and that side of things. But through my own journey, I've seen the frustration and experience the frustration on my own of going, well, this is in my medical chart. Didn't you read it? Whereas here, when we're looking at expanding that out, it's not just the medical side, but it's also what does your personal life look like? What does your work life look like? What are your personal relationships? And how are all of those being affected or integrated by this one primary concern that you have? And
And
everybody talks to each other, and we're all working to figure out what's the primary concern? How do we work on this? How do we get you to where you want to be?
right, and regardless of what you're going through, like you said, it's not in a vacuum. Life happens, and it doesn't just stop and say, "Hey, wait, you're going through something." It actually piles more stuff on top of you.
Exactly. And we need so much of a support system in order to help deal with those things. That sometimes when we're going through tough stuff in life or even just day-to-day occurrences, don't even know where things are coming at, and we just become very reactive. So it's about really taking control and power over your own life in in living life in a much calmer and more productive way. With more control, more self-autonomy, um, those sides of things, with the right tools, the right stress management aspects of things, like getting the right services and support that you need.
Right. I actually think that's very profound, the word reactive. When we get something in our life that kind of throws us off, which is very common. I mean, that is life. We are very reactive because some of the things that are thrown at us, they're not expected at all.
Oh, and we've created patterns of living our lives too that are
True.
stuck in our bodies, that are our own ways of thinking, that are, patterns of thought of how to react. And so we don't stop very often when something does occur, something comes up, even a small trigger, a small stressor, at work, or grocery store, or a car accident, any of those things that can come up in life. And we don't have the, many of us, me included through my own stuff, don't have a lot of those coping skills not to react or to look
Right.
at it and take a breath.
Right. And so that's a good segue into my next question, which
Mhm.
is your journey through cancer and trauma is incredibly difficult. And how does that shape how you care for others? When you created Sacred Space, you were you finished with those journeys and then said, "Hey, I need to do something because others are going through and I need to heal myself. Let me create this." Or was it something different?
Oh no, healing in this modality is an ongoing process. So I started this in 2020. We started Open Doors September of 2020. So right in the thick of still in the
COVID.
middle of COVID and the craziness that was going on with all of that. Anyway, I was still in the middle of getting divorced. My divorce wasn't even final until July of 2021, where the domestic violence had ended up coming from.
Okay.
uh, in as a result of the cancer diagnosis that I had. So between 2015 and starting this business in 2019, like that was a full 4 years of just junk
Hmm.
that piled and piled and piled. And so as I started this business, the more that I found within myself of how I could help other people do what I do because I've been a massage therapist for, well, at that point it was 15, 16, 17 years.
Oh,
Um, and the more that I could get back out and find my own health and healing and get back into the practices of massage and meeting practitioners that could somatically help me, that could, the doctors that I needed to move forward, is where we brought all of this into Sacred Space. And so building this was really a big part of my own journey too. And as I get triggered and then I meet somebody that is a great practitioner in town, it's like, hey, come on in. You're doing great things. You did great things for me, and come join us and help the rest of the community because you've got great things to offer out as well.
right. Yep. I love that. And so your cancer was, you said 2015?
2015, December 2015, I got diagnosed with uterine cancer.
Okay. And with that, I didn't realize you were already had been a massage therapist, so you were already in the healing space of for others, not necessarily for ourselves. It's like, okay, I can help others, and then when you had the trauma for the domestic violence, you had that on top of still trying to heal because as a cancer survivor myself, it that part is difficult. Once you've got that diagnosis, I don't know if it's like this for you, but for me, I kind of say I'm living with cancer just because they can't rule it out. They can only rule it in. If it's big and if it's small enough, they have no idea if it's in your body or, whatever, if it's going to do anything. It's not until it's big enough for it to cause an issue can they say, okay, it's there. So for me, I wanted to make peace with it. And, because I don't think that it's gone. I think it is, somewhere. But if I can live harmoniously with it, then maybe my body won't, bring it out as much. I don't know. I could be delusional, but,
Well,
that's
I don't I don't think so. I think there's all different perspectives of how we interpret our own illnesses and things that come up. What I've realized the biggest side and what I take personally, that's you just explained your perspective. My perspective on it is that cancer, a cancer diagnosis is really a symptom of something else that's going on.
true.
And the body presents chronic illness, it presents issues as symptoms of something that's deeper, whether that's emotional or spiritual or past trauma or whatever. There's something bigger going on, which is really why, as far as blending everything into Sacred Space is ideal. because we can treat symptoms. Western medicine treats symptoms all the time with medications and surgeries and processes with that. But let's get to the root of and really get to the root of what's going on and heal the emotional side of it. And the yeah.
I do have part of that too. I am a big proponent, which is why I was thrilled for this interview. I'm a big proponent, and anybody who knows me, I like to go holistic first. I mean, there's a time and a place for
Mhm.
um, Western and doctors and everything. So I don't have anything against them. I just know that I am inquisitive and I need to know kind of like what's happening. And so when I get to doctors, you have your 15 minutes and my questions always go past that. But it's like I do not want to treat symptoms. I want to get to the root of this. Don't give me a prescription that I need to be on for the rest of my life. Let's try and get to the root of it. Let's handle it and then, see if we can do that. If not, and I need that, I always know I can fall back on that, but I do not want that as my first one. And when I got diagnosed, I was like, I know there are miracles. I know there are people who cure, their own cancer and stuff and that mind body connection. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do holistic first. And I already thought I was living fairly healthy. And I'm like, okay, went cold turkey, not, getting off sugar and a bunch of other things. And I went to get another scan because I went to the radiologist and I said, you need to show me. I don't trust just a report. I need to see it with my own eyes. And
Mhm.
so they accommodated me and everything and all that. And I didn't change that within, I think it was like a month or two. I don't think I have that mind body connection strong enough. Others do, and I could see that. So I knew that was going to be a problem. And that's not something you just flip a switch and it turns on. That's something you have to cultivate. And, I think so. I had to use Western and get that um, poison and mutilation and all that stuff. I know I shouldn't use those words, but I honestly, that's how I feel,
Mhm.
how I felt. And so, it seems like if I had found you and, your space, I might have had an easier adjustment. I might have made the same decisions, but it might have had an easier adjustment kind of going through. I don't know you didn't have your space yet when you were diagnosed, but I don't know if any of this resonates.
Oh, it completely does. And while we're not going to say that we can cure anything
Correct.
on any aspect of it, but it's really taken that whole hand-holding approach to you figuring out, or each individual person really taking their own personal responsibility for their own health and what resonates with them at each step of the way. We can facilitate into different practitioners and different practitioner personalities, not just modalities, but to really find the right fit that's going to connect you with your higher self, your true inner knowing of how to heal yourself, because that's really what it is. The body knows what to do. We just need to give it the right information and the right tools in order to open that up and get there. And if you're searching Google and trying to find practitioners in a city as large as Colorado Springs and not knowing where to start or even what you might need, or not knowing what's even out there, oftentimes that leads you down the path of, well, I just listen to what the doctors are telling me and treating symptoms and that side of things, which is a big difference of what we've got. Because we'll sit down and talk to you and say, well, have you thought about this? Does this resonate? Does this sound different?
Right. I'm not sure. Were you in Colorado Springs when you got your diagnosis?
No, I was up in Denver,
Okay.
living in Denver.
So you probably had the same thing. You get, the doctor tells you, then all of a sudden they bring you a nurse navigator and they
Mhm.
have this binder and they go, okay, and they're starting to schedule, all of these doctors and all that kind of stuff, which is great because, they're helping you. However, for me, they didn't give me time to stop and think. It's like, you got to go here, you got to go. And I'm like, wait a sec, let's pull the brakes on, and let me process and let me see what else I can do. But, before you start doing that. Did you have a similar experience?
I did, and it was so disorienting and disheartening for all of it because I really didn't have any time to sit with that decision before they had me scheduled for 6 different appointments plus a whole treatment plan. And it was like boom, 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 this is where we're gonna go with all of it. I think I no called, no showed like 3 appointments because I just couldn't. I was so overwhelmed and couldn't do anything with it. They were very mad up at UC Health Anschutz, but at the same time, it was like, I kind of have to do that for myself, um, to figure these things out because none of it felt right. I felt like I was in a cattle car, right?
Yes.
Like you got this diagnosis and now you are on the fast track to get whatever their research tells you that they need. And I'm not saying that any of it's wrong because they have plenty of research behind all of it. They do have great information protocols. They do save lives with all of it. But it's that time in between of really being able to sit back, process, and take it in before making those huge life-changing decisions at that point
Yeah,
that
they already have like your surgery scheduled and everything, and it's just like, do I really need the surgery? Let's process this. Let's have a dialogue. And I didn't get that. It was just like, this is the protocol, and you've got to do that. Now, I did realize that there are a lot of people that, whether it doesn't have to be cancer, it could be anything that
chronic
they're
illness.
diagnosed with. Yeah,
Mhm.
that it's like, okay, they just run you through. And there are some people that don't have the capacity to stop and think and take in their own wellness. They just want to be told and they just go through it. There's nothing wrong with that. I always said there's no judgment. Everybody's got their own journey, and let's support them, which is what you do. But
Absolutely.
now we're letting people know that there is an alternative, not necessarily for your treatment as far as, Western and stuff, but now for the whole body. When I was looking for an oncologist, I have a story about that, but I really wanted an integrative oncologist. And in 2012, I couldn't find one. I got one that was a little more open, but I could not find one. And I was so disappointed that that didn't, wasn't in Colorado Springs at the time.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, even in 2015, I didn't even find one in Denver.
Oh, really? Okay.
So yeah, Denver surrounding areas, even going all the way up to Boulder. Because I was willing to drive if there were somebody around there, but it really didn't exist. And so the difference in that 10 years now is huge,
Oh,
really,
okay.
for what people are coming around with this. And everything that we've just talked about, in that support and acknowledging that, where people are at and which route they want to choose, is really one of the other foundational pieces that we put into Sacred Space because we facilitate a monthly luncheon support group for the GCC, or the Gynecological Cancer Coalition here in
Oh,
town, which is in and works with Sue's Gift, for
right.
gynecological cancers, and and so to be able to add different support groups for different, chronic illnesses or cancer diagnoses, and that kind of stuff is another big part of where I extend or want to extend that health and healing out to everybody here because it makes so much of a difference to be able to have a group that you can come in and talk to that have been through the same, uh, or very similar diagnoses, or in very similar boats. You can sit down and talk. You can get those additional resources. What doctor do you have? Who are you talking to? Did this work for you? Did you have to go through this chemo or do this surgery? All of those things come into playing a part and really creates the richness in that support. It's not just about an individual practitioner or guiding through specific treatments, that we do here. It's really about that community aspect and bringing that core side of things out to where you just have that much more support to share your story and to really see it in a richer aspect of things.
Right. And we are talking cancer just because both of us have that in common. And that is our experience. But I want people to know, the listeners, that this is not about cancer. This is not about one diagnosis. And even if you don't have a diagnosis of anything, Sacred Space is for you. It's for
Yeah.
your wellness and richness. So let's talk about a little bit. I
Let's
always
talk
find,
prevention.
yeah,
Prevention with everything because that's really where I want to focus on everything. So even though we've got the support groups, we've got, different aspects to help people within that cornerstone or where they're at. It's really just about where, addressing where they're at because that's usually what brings people in because we do live in a reactive healthcare society. But it's moving everything to prevention. And if, that steadily, you just kind of we all have these moments where we kind of feel like something's just not quite right. I'm just not as happy as I was a year ago. Something's not fitting. Maybe it's a job, maybe it's something, maybe it's a certain situation, a loss of a loved one or some grief or something like that. Any of those types of things, let's prevent it before it becomes an issue and deal with those things as they come in. And on top of that, find really great ways to live the best lives that we can. Come
we've
in
only got
and
one life.
yeah, just come in and enjoy a massage. Come in and just get a chiropractic treatment once a month. Do some Pilates just to feel some movement or yoga just to feel some movement. In your daily life, we've got nutritionists that can, work with, what's your daily habits and diet look like in those aspects. And that's all preventative to really start adding more life into the years that you have.
Right. Uh, I you're going to see at the Colorado Springs Town Tidings, I'm going to get more contemplative and reflective just because of recent things that happened in my life. And I'm just like, okay, well, I already know tomorrow is not guaranteed. So, and I'm getting old enough where it's like where I was stuck before, if I'm not here tomorrow, what does it matter if I'm me? And someone thinks I look like a fool or have judgment or something, what will it matter if I'm gone tomorrow? It doesn't matter. So why not be me and try and live the best life and integrate more happiness, more things, more interactions, and love from me radiating out and around me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The happier we are inside and the more um self-actualized and more, personal responsibility that we've got for our own health and healing, the better we are presenting out into the world and the more freedom and availability and opportunities end up coming up as well. Like talk manifestation. I mean, all of those things. The happier you are, the more stuff ends up coming that's just good stuff, right?
Right. And even when something, not very happy happens, and the other stuff piles on, don't stop. Just know that whatever, you might be being tested or whatever, and they're really giving it to you. But, keep going, keep getting the support, keep taking care of yourself, and just know that I always say tomorrow could be, I mean, I know it may not be here, but tomorrow could be amazing. We don't know until we get there.
Right. Absolutely.
So,
Well, it just creates such a better threshold to be able to handle all of those different pieces that are inevitably going to come up. And if you have a higher threshold for all of that, it it just flows through things better. You
right,
recognize that it might be one bad day or one bad moment, but it doesn't have to ruin the whole next year.
right. So now I really think integrating stories into these interviews really helps the audience to understand more about your business. So, walk me through. I'm coming to Sacred Space, or I'm, who's your typical clients that walk in? If you've got, typical, of course, anybody can come, but in general, and what, you know, it, if they have an illness, like you see more of that, let's do a story about that. If they walked in, where they say, "Hey, I'm here," and they bawl, start bawling, and then you go, "Okay, come on in, I gotcha." Um, or if it's somebody who just, wants is curious about what you do. They don't have a particular ailment right now. They just, are curious. So I've got both of those. Can you speak to both of those?
Speak to both of them, absolutely. So somebody with a specific illness or condition or concern that they're wanting to come into, we do a fully integrative health assessment. And so we'll sit down from anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half worth of time to really look at what do all those factors look like? What are your
What, it's
habits?
not that 15 minutes, okay? You got to get out of here.
No, no, no. We're going to give time to really sit down and listen to the whole story and understand where you're at. And we're probably, and very often we're going to ask uncomfortable questions. For women sometimes going through stories like mine with uterine cancer, domestic violence, or any endometriosis side of things, or have kids and stress and anxiety, we're going to ask about your birth stories, with your kids. What was that like giving birth to them? Because that story matters. For men with, like, say, MS or something along those lines, right? What what were the conditions when you were growing up? How were you taught to handle your emotions as a teenager or as a young child? Because all of those things, those are hard questions to answer and might not seem relevant, but they really are. And gives us a really good picture to dive into, like, creating a good treatment plan for those things. The other thing that we're going to do in that hour is really look at what your budget is and figure out, and let's make the most sense. And we're not going to tell you or create, a plan that's going to say, this is going to be six, seven, $8,000, and we're going to have you a whole new person in 3 months because healing
What?
doesn't happen on a timeline
Right.
by any means. And so we're going to look at what's the pace that you want to go, how long do you want to integrate some of this stuff in, and what's your monthly budget look like? Because we can take years to walk through these things and integrate them as they go, especially for chronic illnesses or bigger concerns or diseases that people are working with. They didn't get there overnight. We're not going to back it out overnight. I'm
Right.
not going to try and pretend that we can by any
Right.
means. And so that hour to hour and a half or more, depending on their backstory with all of it, is really, really important. And then from there, we'll start creating a plan based off of everything that they let us know with all of it, and start walking through things. And then we do 30, 60, 90-day check-ins and then periodic check-ins after that, depending on their plan, to make sure that we're hitting those points. Are we getting what we need? Are the practitioners the right people for you to work with? Are you comfortable with what's coming up? Do we need to shift? How are things changing? Do we need to stop or slow down or maybe speed up? Maybe you get to a point and it's like, I love this. Let's keep going at it. I feel great today. How much better can I feel? We've seen all sides of that coming through as
Oh,
well.
nice.
So go ahead.
And I just love that approach. There's a lot of things that are locked inside that, you said going back is, it's relevant even though we don't need it. And it's some of that stuff is locked inside, causing some of the discomfort or illnesses and, things that, again, you can't cure it. But how can you help your clients' bodies adjust and for now and for the future, and that you take the time and
Mhm.
you also care about their budget. It's not like, oh, this is, $7,000 and, here's your plan. If you want to feel better, you got to do that. I mean, how often is it that we go to a doctor or something and, oh, you need this test, and I don't care, or whatever. You go in there, and even if with insurance, it's $3,000, and,
Yeah.
you got to pay it. And it's just like, come on, do we need that test, or is there something less expensive that might get us the information? It's, I mean, you guys don't do that part, but you're taking in the whole wellness and healing, and preventative, and your financial impact, uh, has it impacts our life and our stress level. So with you at least addressing it and working with somebody, that it's so on brand with you and Sacred Space. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep. Well, the financial stress is the number one stressor that causes disease. It's been proven over and over and over again. And we're not, by any means, I cannot stomach being adding to that in any way, shape, or form. And so that's what leads it into the average person as well, to come in and do the preventative side for themselves, is we can really look at their budget. Do you have expendable income during a month to work on things that or just come in and relax and do the de-stressor side of things, that keep you moving forward, and healthy and happy on that aspect as well. Um, what we do and the way that all of this comes about is that we have a very low monthly membership fee, that is $30 a month for an individual. We can build family plans and business plans as well that are higher than that, but starting at $30 a month, that's your access for the support groups, for community classes, for a lot of de-stressing, stress relieving information, and introduction to a lot of the tools and things that you can take and do on your own, that come with that. And then transparent pricing between all of our practitioners is set at a standard price, regardless of modality. Physical therapy will cost the same as massage therapy. It only depends on the time that you are with that practitioner in a
Right.
30, 60, 90-minute time frame.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it becomes easier, much easier to budget on that side of it.
Right. And all these practitioners are under your one roof.
Mhm.
Okay. So it's not, hey, we've made a plan. Now you got to go this place to get this one. You come
Well,
back here.
so within each one of those, we do have at least one person here under this roof to come to the one single location with it. There are other modalities that require more equipment or more, facilities that they have on their own in a little bit different setup than what we can facilitate out of our location. And so we just do a direct referral, but they're all under that same pricing structure. They're all under the same side of it, as well. So you may have to go to a different location, but it's still within the same plan.
Yeah, under this the same plan. That
Yeah.
is a very unique model. I mean,
It
good for you.
yeah. So, and then not to discredit either. So we do have a lot of our mental health practitioners that still do telehealth too. So that's always an option as well.
You got them covered anyway. So you mentioned integrative. What do you do with when somebody is being medically treated, and
Mhm.
do you interact with them at all, the medical side, or is it just
We
the
can. So I've got a functional medicine, uh, doctor here, as well as a nurse, as well as a couple of different nurse practitioners on site that will integrate in with Western medicine and call and get test results. They will call and figure out what those plans are. A lot of times what we notice is we will reach out and try and get that information. We won't always get it back. But we will definitely make that attempt.
Wow, I didn't realize you had nurse practitioners there
Mhm.
on, under you, or under your roof, because a lot of times when I go to see my doctor, it's a nurse practitioner. So,
Nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant
right.
or yeah, something along those lines. Yeah. And so we have nurse practitioners that have, prescription authority. She does take some insurances as well.
Oh,
And
nice.
so we have that available if you guys already have insurance and, looking for a primary care, we can definitely do that. And then direct primary care with a different one, and then a functional medicine chiropractic on a different side. So it really, that medical team really comes together to pull that whole holistic aspect together and blend in what is symptom related that we need to treat, that we're not going to get off of medications. We need to manage this way in a safe way, but maybe we can slowly start integrating into more personal autonomy or create a plan to get the body healthier, to not need those things, if that's the goal, to get off of them. And it makes sense if it makes sense to do that.
Right.
Mhm.
So if somebody, and this happens all the time, especially in the medical side, you know, we find something is wrong, something just doesn't feel right, whether it's an ache or a pain or some function or something, and you go to your doctor, you get these tests, and I'm in this camp, but I am so not alone in this,
Mhm.
and they say they can't find anything. And you're like, I know something, this is happening or whatever. It's not normal. Or if this is chronic and you're telling me it's nothing. I love when they say it's anxiety. And I'm like, I don't feel anxious right now. You just made me anxious, but I didn't feel that, and everything's in that camp. And now you're questioning yourself as far as being a human being. And so if somebody is in that state, just feeling there's something wrong, doctors aren't figuring it out or whatever, would your sacred space be like the perfect fit there to, this is a next step?
Yeah, actually, because what we can do, first of all, we've got a bioresonance chamber here that we would probably start with in that specific situation to bring calm to the nervous system
Oh,
and really start to reintegrate what you've been told from the doctors and that anxiety. Let's bring that level back down, right? It's music and light frequency, much like a float tank, to help reset that nervous system.
oh wow.
From from there, after a session there, then we can
That
sit.
sounds wonderful, by the way.
It's honestly, it's like the best nap that anybody can have, and you kind of come back out of it and like a whole different perspective of thinking and feeling about things. It's fantastic. Um, but when you look at what you're talking about there in that set, what do we do at that point? Everything seems to be normal in the test results. Well, there's always that aspect of you are an individual person, and just because of what's normal based off of a test result formulation or standard doesn't always mean that that's what's normal for you. And so that's where functional medicine side of things comes in, and we can look at it and read the reports or read the test results that you had before and look and say, well, maybe it's right there on the edge. And maybe for you, right there on the edge still isn't comfortable. Let's go ahead and try what X, Y, and Z, right? Or, like I said, we end up doing the bioresonance chamber or revive chamber, and that corrects it because it was something else that's more emotional or somatic or stressor that's in the background that is stirring up, that thought process. So it's kind of a misnomer for doctors to say it's just anxiety. Well, maybe it is, but that doesn't clarify like what's the anxiety really coming from? Is it because of something that you haven't put both pieces together, of what's really going on, and something happening over here doesn't seem like it would be related to, a stomach pain or a chronic headache or, something that's standing out like that. But they very well could be. So
Right.
let's dissect that and see what events just recently happened in your life, and see if that's something that we can we can address from a alternative healthcare perspective. There might
Right.
be some acupuncture side of things that we can throw in and do. There might be some quantum healing or Reiki treatments, or maybe even just de-stressing between the bioresonance chamber and a massage can be enough to shift all of that.
Right. And don't give me a prescription for Xanax just because you think this is
Right. Well, it's not saying, sometimes those are needed, and that's fine if there's a lot of things going on. I mean, there was a point in time that I needed, medication for that kind of stuff because I had
me
too much
too.
going on. But but in all reality, let's try some other alternatives. And wouldn't it be nice? I mean, wouldn't it be great if everybody had a choice and said, here, maybe for the next month we try these set of tools and see what happens. See if you feel better on your own without becoming in needing a medication.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes the natural alternative takes longer because we're not treating just the symptoms. We're trying to get to the root of it. And like, I've suffered from depression, major depression, my entire life. Once I was diagnosed, they're throwing all these antidepressants and people need them, to kind of level out. It depends on where you are, if
Mhm.
you need them. But I knew I did not want to be on that for the rest of my life. So I was looking into, like what tools can I have in my toolbox? And when, as long as, I wasn't suicidal or something, then, what could I pull out? And
Well,
so I did start cognitive behavioral therapy.
mhm.
And I'm like, oh, and it is not easy. Just, the all or nothing thinking and the misconceptions I had on index cards. Like I think there were 10 misconceptions. And when I was starting to go down, I would pull out the cards and go, which one is it? Which one is it? But every day you had to wake up and you have to work on it. It wasn't a, pop a pill. My mom was one that she just wanted the pill. And I said, Mom, there isn't a magic pill. It's not going to be like you take it and oh, life is great or whatever. It doesn't exist. And
No,
if you mask it with, I never went into drugs and all that. I would, my brain works the way of, life is still going to be there. If I self medicate and it wears off, I still got to deal with life. So why don't I just deal with it first and get the tools I need instead of trying to mask it. But that
yeah.
was me.
Yeah. Well, let me put that into like what you just said into a really great perspective that I've seen over the years. So you go in, you have surgery or you have an injury, and you are prescribed an opioid. Okay, Percocet, something, kind of along those lines to deal with the pain of that injury or that surgery, right? But there's a plan with that to where you're going in for physical therapy afterwards. Like there's a plan knowing that you have a short-term amount of time to be on that pain medication in order for your body to heal. Why in our society isn't a mental health side of things treated the same way? Okay, that as a perspective. So yes, medication can be helpful, but can it be helpful in the exact same way that maybe an opioid is for post-surgery? You had a traumatic event happen and you had depression come up. You have a couple of weeks worth of a medication that's going to help you feel better, but you're also put into having the tools available and starting to teach you how to take care of yourself as you're moving out of that, much like physical therapy does and getting a post-surgical moving again, right? And
Yeah.
accessible. So that's really, let's look at it from that perspective in what we do here. The medication can be very, very needed in the short term, and that's great. But let's find the tools that you need in order to move forward too.
Yep. And where's that toolbox that we open up and go, nope, not this today. Nope, not this. Oh, there's the one I'm going to use.
Exactly, exactly. And then have a support system and a resource to go, I just fell apart and I don't know what to do. Help me.
Oh
Right?
my goodness. Yes. That is amazing. It's so needed. And, I love our conversation because we're unpacking a lot in a short period of time, but there's so much in our lives and in your business. I mean, that there's so much in lives, and therefore you're bringing in all those spokes into the bicycle wheel where, it can turn.
Yeah. Yep,
So
exactly.
yeah,
So,
that's great. And then your membership model, it seems to make alternative care more accessible without sacrificing quality.
yes, absolutely. And more accessibility, more affordable. We do uh, individuals, family structures. We will treat kids. I've got some where we can do kids classes to teach them some of the, stress management skills as well, and emotional regulation side of things that are coming up here in the near future. We've got tons of ideas and lots of practitioners that just want to give out to the community and help people heal and see more change happening. And we're always evolving and adding new things to it. So that model where at as low as $30 a month starting out really does make it affordable and for businesses. So if businesses want to offer an additional benefit to their employees,
Oh,
we
wow.
can build a plan that can cover as much or as little, not as little, that's not the right word, but as much as they would like to offer to help their employees be less stressed and more efficient and take care of making them more money in their business as well. Because healthier, happier people are healthier and happier in their work and their jobs as well. So,
I didn't even think about it, even though you touched on it. I didn't even think about businesses integrating this into their wellness for their employees. And we've all heard the news over the years, and then um, you know, government dictating a lot of things, you know, for better or worse. I have no judgment on it, but like employers, you've heard them also on the news that, now they have to provide the health care and stuff, even if they're smaller, and other things. Now it's great. Yes, we want employers to provide health care because trying to afford it on our own is ridiculous. So that's why some people actually do work to get at, into the health plan. But having Sacred Space integrated, now we're doing more than just the minimal um, preventative. Here, go get this test, go to get that test, which is great. I'm glad we have that, but you take it to a different level.
right, you're moving from reactive care and the just in case something happens side of things into preventative. So our direct primary care model and having the nurse practitioners on site can cover, 85 to 90% of normal medical needs within a year. It's the catastrophic plans that are that cost the bigger side, and we have other options for that too. There's lots of health shares out there that we can direct people in as well. But for an employer, a small business with 10 to 25 employees, I mean, it makes sense to be able to say, instead of putting out $500 to $800 per employee and charging that back in their check, or because I can't afford it, we've got some really great options. So for about $115 a month, we can cover 80 to 90% plus all of the preventative access that they could possibly need, that would really actually make a bigger impact for employees and what they're doing
So
for
what
for
if a business has something like 2 to 5 employees? Would it still be beneficial for them to come talk to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It doesn't matter the size. You can have, so I have a lot of solopreneurs in
Yep.
here, so a business of one, that just does a plan for themselves, and it's great to be able to offer that and to do that, knowing that we have business owners, and employees and individuals and families that can help take care of them, create better healthcare system for them.
Right. That's great. So then within you, do you have, I think it was on the website, maybe 20 plus practitioners?
Yes.
Ish. It might have
Ish.
grown.
Ish. Yeah, we're always kind of bringing in a few more and kind of adjusting as we go. But yeah, for right now, we've got 16 that are um, very, very solid in everything that we're doing here and work out of and by solid, I mean work out of our location
Mhm.
here in Rock Rimmon. The rest are have their own spaces, and so we add that number in that comes up to roughly, yeah, about 24 or so that are external.
Right. And just because I'm inquisitive, I'm going to put this out there.
Uh-huh.
Are a lot of those practitioners also within sacred space for their own personal care?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
put
and
you
they
on.
all kind of work together and all, that's a big encouragement that I have. Like, it's great, come in and work and produce this, and help people out. But, that the biggest side that I've got is if you're not bought in and you don't believe in this stuff yourself and you're not utilizing everybody that's here, like what's really the driving factor for you to be in here? We are a healthcare collaborative, and that collaborative model works within our staff at the same time as it does being collaborative for our members that come in as well.
So it's nice to know they, all of you, walk the walk and talk the talk.
Yes.
I,
Yep.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I had a feeling that I knew the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
great. So with all those practitioners, does somebody who get in the membership, do we have a point person and then go from there? So you said you do like a 30, 90 day check-in and stuff. Is there like a point person and then each practitioner that you go to, that's another thing, but then you still have one person ish?
ish. So it really depends on each individual person. So yeah, I we'll start with our care coordination team, in order to set those appointments and really dive in, whether it's a full assessment, and habit look at their habits and their lifestyle in the background, or if it's just a 30-minute, hey, I just want to come in, I need chiropractic and massage therapy, and just put me on the schedule. Then that's a quick check-in too. And so there's levels of what people are feeling like they need, and want that we're willing to address as well. And then periodically we might get a phone call out to a member and be like, hey, just want to check in and see how you're utilizing things and how things are going and if there's anything else that we can do. And that would come from that care coordination team.
Okay, so you have a care coordinator, and that is how, with 20 plus practitioners, or ish, you are able to keep the care personalized and seamless for the patient.
Yep.
Or do you call them
This
patients?
is seamless as possible. Yeah, we go with members because
Oh, member.
everybody's a bought-in member. I don't always like the term patient because
Okay,
then it makes it feel too medical, right? And
right,
so I really want people to feel like they belong and they're taking, personal accountability too for their own health and where they want to be, and really empowering their journey through all of this.
right. So if you're a member, do you
Mhm.
go through the care specialist to get all of your appointments, or do you call the different practitioners?
No, just anybody can schedule the appointments at that point. So if we write out a treatment plan for you and we know what's there, we'll put that in the back end notes so that all of our practitioners can read through that. Because just the way that system will look, everybody's integrated to be able to see what's going on, what journey you as a member are on. And so you might finish up one appointment with a massage therapist. Maybe our front desk reschedules you, or you're looking at, hey, I want to do this next instead of, what's on this plan. They can go ahead and schedule that, or we have another option too, where each individual can go online to our website and schedule their own appointments. So if
Okay.
something comes up and changes and they just, wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and decide I really just need, a revived biochamber
That
session
never
tomorrow because
happens.
I'm stressed out, they can go on and see what's available too. So it's
Okay.
very care coordinated, integrated, but it's also about giving that personal responsibility and the availability for you to pick and choose what you want to do and what works as
Right.
well.
So you have options.
Hmm.
If you feel better having them schedule whatever, by all means call you guys. If
Yep.
it's you go online and you want to just, look at your own schedule and try and figure out and stuff, then they have that option too.
Yep. Absolutely. So not to make it sound like it's confusing and we don't know what we're doing, but it's really about uh, working with everybody's own personality and making the most availability and the most options
Yeah.
out there for people to schedule and get with the care that they need
Yeah,
without any option.
I didn't think it was confusing. What I thought my head says options, and options are always good.
I
and
agree.
and they're controlled options, which
Hmm.
is even better. So it's not, out there I've got way too many and I don't know what to do. Yours are controlled. If you prefer this, here's that. If you prefer this, or if you prefer a blend, by all means,
Yeah.
we're there for them.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
great. So then you were talking, um you do groups and wellness events. So I'm curious on what's the most surprising thing you've learned from hosting community wellness events?
most surprising thing that I've learned or experienced.
Yeah,
Um,
I know they're not, I mean, it's like herding cats. So, I'm just curious to know when you're trying to do that and get everybody together and, promote it and all that kind of stuff. And then it happens, what's,
I think the
surprising.
most surprising thing I'd have to say is we do a every Wednesday evening. We do a 1 hour educational uh, class that's open to the community and utilize different practitioners, whether they're in our network or outside of our network, doesn't really, as long as they're a practitioner in Colorado Springs, and can be any type of healing modality or field, everything from art therapy to somatic release side of things to even flower, like Japanese flower arranging, because it's a stress relieving kind of modality, right? So I would say the most interesting thing that I have seen is in the variation of those classes and what grabs the community, and sometimes how many people we have show up for something that is just completely off the wall, um, for that I always think internally, I'm like, we're gonna have like one person here for this. This is not, and then 30 people show up, and I'm like, wow, okay, I can't, I can't discredit anything anymore
Right,
of
right.
what people are going to gravitate to and find where where their stress relief or their health and healing is going to come from.
Right. And that's great that that's a funny story. And it's also shows your range and your creativity. And it's not just, here's the norm. You're going to find other stuff. So it's always beneficial to go to Sacred Space to at least find out about it, because you never know what Amanda's going to cook up for you.
What we're going to come up with. Well, it's not just me. I mean, you look at, I've
Right,
got, 24 different practitioners that all are cooking up their own stuff too. And it's like, hey, can we do this? Sure, let's see how it lands. Let's
right.
try. Yeah.
And you're open to it. So, and I'm sure the members, they may have ideas too. And you think about it and go, let me see what I can do.
Yep, that's exactly it. So we're very, very open communication side of things as far as what comes up, because it's, really about health and healing is about adding more joy and play into your life. And what better way to add more joy and play than doing some of these extra events that, get us into doing things that we might not normally do. We've got a really great dance event that we've put on once a month for like the last year, it always amazes me on that one too, of the people that end up coming into that just to experience an hour in a very safe environment of doing some somatic, movement and dance in a very fun way.
Great. So if my listeners, watchers, subscribers want to come to any, do you have any room for them?
We do. We have
Okay,
always got room.
just wondering. I
Yeah.
don't want to steer them there and it's like, oh, sorry, we're full.
Yeah, no, no, no. We will always find room, and the more the merrier right now at this point for all of it. So by all means, check out our website. We've got a community calendar on our website that lists all of that stuff out. We are on Meetup. We've got our events up on Eventbrite. And then all of our follow our Facebook page as well because we put out the Facebook events for some of the larger stuff as well as the regular recurring ones too. So.
Great. And where are you located?
We are just as you enter into Rock Rimmon, so right off of I-25 and Woodman. And in
You
no
are
time,
on the west side of I-25 though, right?
yes, the west side of I-25, right off of Woodman in the Wind Chime Center.
Okay, great. And then what else would you like to let them know about, or is there anything we missed?
Um, I would say if you've ever been thinking about getting healthier, looking at preventative stuff, or even have a question about anything alternative and how it may work or interact with any type of pre medical condition that you've already got, give us a call because we can navigate that and do on a daily basis. So I'd love to get people more into the holistic, the alternative care, and moving forward and feeling like they're more empowered into their own healthcare. But don't let any type of pre-existing medical condition hold you back thinking that you can't do it because they work together.
Right. And there's no harm in checking you out, checking out the website and having a conversation.
Yep, absolutely. So we're
Great.
always available for that.
Great. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for sharing your story and the incredible work you're doing at Sacred Space Therapeutics. It's been really, honestly, inspiring to hear how you're redefining the healthcare and how it can look like blending compassion, community, and truly integrative care.
Mhm.
So, to our listeners, if you're curious to learn more or take the first step towards your own healing journey, visit sacredspacetherapeutics.com. And thank you for tuning in to this episode of our local business spotlight. You can catch past issues and interviews at cos.towntidings.com. And until next time, stay well, stay connected, and as always, be in the know, on the go with Colorado Springs Town Tidings. And I'll see you next week.